How does Judaism view intimate relations between husband and wife? Is it something that should be, and the Torah is happy when a husband and wife are together, or it's something that we prefer that wouldn't have to happen, and we do it just because we need to have the next generation? So we'll start a series of a few videos explaining how does Judaism view intimate relations between husband and wife. But before we go into this topic, I will share a bit about me and why am I having this topic. A few years ago, I started a series of classes from the book of Bereshit, the book of Genesis, about love and marriage from the Torah, getting inspired by the stories in Bereshit, in Genesis, and learning how to have a better relationship between husband and wife, how to increase love, how to increase communication. After a few years, I took these topics and made it into a book. You can find the book on Amazon. In the Beginning by Israel Wendy. And I got a lot of good feedback about the book. It gives also the learning, which I find it fun to learn the stories and get inspired from the stories. And also I collected quite a few practical ideas. As a marriage counselor, I collected ideas and put them together in the book. Things that you can do together with your spouse to increase love in your marriage. Already when I wrote the book, I had a debate with myself. Should I write also about intimate relations or not? On one hand, I felt that some things should be kept quiet and silent and modest. So I prefer to be in a modesty mode and to discuss just topics that you can see, like communication, saying thank you, and other things that you can practice every day, and they're fun to talk about and are fine to talk about in public. Slowly, I realized that many couples ask themselves, what about intimate relationship? Should they talk about it? Shouldn't they talk about it? Is it something which is good, not good? Especially from a religious perspective. And sometimes it creates some kind of separation between the couple. I volunteer in a hotline of counseling. And one day I got a phone call from a religious person, and I realized that part of the problem there was just the question of how do we relate to this physical connection between husband and wife. And asking myself and also my colleges and different rabbis, I realized that it's a topic that could be taught. So we won't go into details. We'll keep the holiness in this series of videos. We'll try to keep modest language, but I found it very important. And in the second edition of the book, which, as I said, you can find on Amazon, in the beginning, I also discuss this. So in this series, we will start from the book of Bereshit, Genesis, and try to see how does the Torah view this connection between husband and wife. And very interesting, we find different terms used for the physical connection between husband and wife. And as soon as we have different terms, it teaches us, one second, there's something which is a bit more complex than it's great or terrible, it's holy or something which we refrain from. So we have three terms. The first term got to do with yedi'ah. We'll translate it as knowing, but as we'll see in the next video, it's not really knowing, it's much more than that. So the first time we have an intimate relation in the Torah is when Adam, the first man in the whole universe, knows his wife. So, Adam yada et Chava ishto, Adam knew his wife, or he had intimacy with his wife, and she got pregnant, and she had a son called Cain. And then later again, we have the same term, yada, yedi'ah. So knowing. For now, we will use the term knowing or yada. That's one term we find in the Torah. A second term, very common, is the term of the word bi'ah, yedi'ah, which can be translated to come, which isn't a great translation, but that's a very common translation, to come. Ve'avo elea, I will come to her. We find it by Yaakov, who wants to come to his wife to have children, and typically this term is used when there's a connection between husband and wife in a purpose of having children. So the term bi'ah, lavo, to come upon, a translation will never keep the original meaning, is a term we find when husband and wife are together in the purpose of having children. The third term we find is shchiva, to lie down. And this term is found when there's a connection or relation in a place where it shouldn't be. For example, the daughter of Yaakov, Dinah, she goes to the city of Shechem. She's captured by a young guy called Shechem, and obviously she doesn't want to be with him, and he lies down with her, who shochevita. So the term shchiva represents a place where we have some connection, intercourse, without the right place or by the right order. Usually there's quite a big problem in this intercourse. Another example for shchiva will be in the story of Lot and his daughters. Lot and his family lived in the city of Sodom. God destroyed Sodom and saved Lot and his two daughters, and they hide in a cave, and the two daughters, for some reason, we won't go into it now, they are afraid that there's no one in the world to have kids with. They are the only people left in the world, Lot and both of his daughters. So they want to have a connection with the father. On one hand, this connection they have a good meaning to it. They want to have children. On the other hand, it's a father with his daughters. They give him wine, he falls asleep, and they lie down with him. And in that story, we find two terms. Also, the term of bi'ah, to come together. The goal is to have children. So the term bi'ah certainly fits in to come upon. But also, obviously, it's adultery. They shouldn't be lying with the father. So we find also the term of shchiva, lishkav. So we saw that we have three terms in the Torah. We'll start from the lowest one, shchiva. That is when man and woman have a relation when it shouldn't be there. That's obviously the lowest part, and many times this connection will be forbidden. The level above is a level of which has something positive in it. Husband and wife, they want to have children. The natural way of having children is having relations, and they have relations in the purpose of having children. It's great, good to have relations in the purpose of having children. The first blessing man got after God created the world was atem pru urvu. You should multiply in this land. We should continue the generation, for next generations, continue the nation. So it's important to have children and to raise them. And therefore, it's also something quite positive to have relations in the purpose of having a child, bringing another neshama, bringing a new spirit and life to the world. This second level doesn't teach us about the relations themselves, are they positive or negative. We can just learn that it depends on the purpose of it, on the goal of it. And the third level comes in yedi'ah, the term know. As we will see many in the next video, in the next class, yedi'ah can mean many times something very high, or the opposite. Because it has a great potential, it can also sometimes be the lowest. But it has the potential for something very, very high in it. Yedi'ah, to know, as we will explain it now, to know. Now we will just discuss the first time it appears in the Torah. As we mentioned, God created Adam, separated him to man and wife. They have the sin, they eat from the tree of knowledge, da'at. Next class we'll talk about this term, knowledge. How can we have the term of Etz hada'at tov v'ra, the tree of knowledge between good and evil, and the same term is used for connection between husband and wife. And Adam is sent out of Gan Eden. Adam and Eve, Adam and Chava are sent out of Gan Eden, and now they have to live like regular people, like the life we know today. We live, we hope we live a long life, and after 120 years, we return our soul to Hashem, we pass away. Obviously, in a life of being born and then people die, you need to make sure to continue the next generation. So obviously, after Adam and Chava, Adam and Eve are sent out of Gan Eden, they need to have children. They need to have some kind of connection, relation to have the next generation. So after Adam is sent out of Gan Eden, Adam and Eve, they have relations and they have a child. The pasuk, the verse, has something interesting in it. In English, and also in Hebrew, a sentence shouldn't start with the word and. In Hebrew, it will be the letter vav, ve. So it's not common to find the sentence starting, or a topic in the Torah starting with the letter vav, ve. Here I'll just explain something we find ve many, many times in the Torah in the beginning of the words. And here we have a problem of translation. And if you see translation of the Torah and you see that so many verses start with the word and, it's a mistake in translation. In Hebrew, we have the letter vav, especially in the Torah language, in the language in the Bible. We have the letter vav, we can say it as ve or va. Ve ha'adam, ve ha'ish, comes to connect. It's like the word and man. When we have va, that changes the word between future and past. You won't go into that now. Why does the Torah use that? But the letter vav is va, vayedaber, vayomer, and he said. It's not and he said. It's he said in the past instead of he will say in the future. Because yedaber, for example, is he will say. Vayedaber is he will say he said in the past. So the letter vav as va means something that happened in the past and not in the future. Ve is a word of a letter of connecting, like the word and. And many times translators don't notice that. So if you are looking in a Chumash, a Torah in English, you will find the word and appearing many times, and most of the times they aren't correct. So after we explain that, we understand that we shouldn't find the word and in the beginning of a topic. At the beginning of a topic, we start something new. And is when we are continuing something. This happened, and this happened. With the relations between Adam and Eve, we find the word and, or we find the letter ve ha'adam yada et Chava ishto. And man, Adam, knew his wife Chava. And if you learn the Torah, understanding that each letter has a meaning, You will ask, how can we have here the letter Vav? Ve, and what happened here? Also, Ve'adam yada, he knew, it sounds like as if he knew who already in the past. Ve'adam yada et Chava ishto. And another question which we can ask here is, usually in the Torah, and we won't go here to so many examples, we first have the action and then the person doing the action. Or, for example, Veidaber Moshe, spoke Moshe. And that's the language in the Torah. First we have the action, the verb, and then we have the person doing it. By the Ber Moshe, here we have the opposite. First we have the name of Adam. Adam knew his wife. In the normal way of writing it in the Torah, it should be knew Adam his wife. That's the way to write it in English. But here it's not. Rashi explains an amazing explanation, maybe one sentence which gives us a different understanding of how real, pure, holy intimacy is. And Rashi, one of the earliest rabbis who wrote on the Torah, he lived about 900 years ago, one of the first commentaries on the Torah, writes that Adam knew his wife still in Gan Eden. Before they sinned, before they were sent out of Gan Eden, Adam and Eve had intimacy between them. In other words, before the need to have the next generation, they already were together in Gan Eden. And here we use the term of yedi'ah, knowing. That already gives us a hint that a pure connection between husband and wife is something holy, something that can happen in Gan Eden itself, in the Garden of Eden, something that it's holy for itself just because it creates a connection between husband and wife, even if that action does not bring another child to the world. The action itself of being together, if it's holy, if it's a mind of its holy, as we will explain in later classes, this itself is something special. Ve'ha'adam yada, he's a human. God created him as Adam, and in a state of being in Gan Eden, in this high spiritual level. And even in that high spiritual level, he and his wife are together to teach us that being together, if it's done in the right mindset, that is something holy. So if we want to summarize, wrap up what we learned, we saw that the Torah uses 3 terms for intimate relations between husband and wife. The higher term will be yada, yedi'ah, knowing. The second term will be bi'ah, to come. And the lower term will be shchiva. This already itself shows us that there's no simple answer to the question, how does Judaism view intimate relations between husband and wife? It could be pure, holy, great, and it could be the lowest level we can reach to as human beings. It really depends on mindset and how we do. What do we do together? How do we build our couple, our marriage together? So how does Judaism view intimate relations between husband and wife? It's complicated. But if we do it in the way that we will learn, with the mindset that we will learn, it can be in Gan Eden. We can be human, we can fulfill our spirit that God gave us, and as if be in the Garden of Eden, if we do it in the right way, if we do it in a way of Yedi'ah. And that we will leave for the next classes.